All right, so I just finished Rouge. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it, read in French. And overall, semi-enjoyable. I'm still waiting for Monet Awad to write the book to blow me away. I love her writing. It's just the plots that get me. So essentially, this book is about a girl named Maribel who is visiting California after her mother's death to settle her estate and get the house all fixed up to be ready to sell or to keep. She hasn't decided yet. It was a very sudden death and definitely under mysterious circumstances. And Maribel is obsessed with skincare regimens, routines, and the idea of beauty in general. She spends the majority of her time watching YouTube videos of this one YouTuber that goes over skincare protection and routines and different cleansers and yada yada. It's very repetitive at the beginning. All the different types of cleansers and toners and protectors and barriers. More words for skincare than I've ever heard of. And that is her biggest insecurity, is just she does not feel beautiful, partly stemming from her childhood when... See, her father is Middle Eastern, and her mother, I'm assuming, is she French? She's always compared to westernized beauty standards, as well as her mother specifically has always been said to be the most beautiful all her life. And she's like, well, I don't look like my mother, so I am not beautiful. And that insecurity has held with her all her life. And then you have a very strained mother-daughter relationship for multiple justifiable reasons that you will learn by the end of this book. She then gets pulled into this cult-like creepy spa that her mother used to attend. And you'd think she would have been going there to learn information about possibly her mother's death, because, you know, suspicious circumstances. No, a plot is not a thing in Monet Awad's writing, from what I've really gotten. It's just weird. It's a weird vibe, atmosphere, surreal, dreamlike kind of situation. This is fairy tale logic, and she is just letting the plot happen to her and getting swept away for this unreal situation that she finds herself in. And while that is fun, Mona Awad is the only writer who I like this style from. I adore her writing so very much, and usually I want to stick to reality. I don't like the fever dream kind of narrative. I want logic in my plots. Mona Awad gets the exception. She's the only author who gets an exception. This book is heavily inspired by Snow White and Eyes Wide Shut. I have not seen Eyes Wide Shut. And then other fairy tales as well. You get vibes from that in addition. Themes of the strained mother-daughter relationship, westernized beauty standards, personal identity, but I really wish it leaned heavier into the toxic mother-daughter relationships. The cat is not cooperating today. Sadly, overall, this book wasn't overly for me. The writing, while I still adored it, wasn't as immersive as I usually get from her. I didn't really get pulled into this world, and I blame that mostly on the plot. The other two books that I've read from her being All's Well and Bunny. So All's Well is my favorite of the two, and that one had a slightly more linear plot that I could follow in the wanting to put on one of Shakespeare's plays. I can't even remember. All's Well, yeah. And then Bunny, which was just another what the hell is this fever dream, but I kind of knew where we were going with it a little bit more. And I guess I'd have to put Rouge right in the middle between the two. So Bunny, sadly, on the unpopular opinion, is my least favorite. All's Well is my favorite. And Rouge here, happily in the middle. But I really wish the plot didn't so much happen to her. She was not the driving force of the narrative. Went to said spa because plot convenience got her there, literally. Like magic is pretty much had to be involved. Showed up, everyone's like, oh, daughter of Noel, and then let us give you treatments. And she's like, okay. And then psychedelic fever trip. She's probably tripping out the entirety of the rest of the book as weird situations happen, weird images happen. We get flashbacks to the past a lot where she did some bad stuff. And then she is just drawn along into the narrative rather than her choices driving the narrative, which is my main annoyance in any book. I did like the symbolism to Snow White and other fairy tales. Specifically, though, it wasn't like obvious too direct symbolisms, but the idea of beauty and how she puts so much value in how she looks and her perception to other people. And she really needs to learn to get past that and not value other people's perception of her. So I did enjoy those kind of elements and how they worked with the story. I just wish that and the mother-daughter relationship was a heavier focus than what we got in the book. And I did love the characters. I really did enjoy these characters. Is it bad of me to say I just wish they were in another story, another plot line? Doesn't matter. I did record a couple clips as I was reading this. It is not direct, insane amount of spoilers in the clips that you're about to see, but it's probably more detail than I'd want going into a book, but only subtly so. All right, I will talk to you later. Cut to vlog portion of this video. All right, I am back from the store because Mona Awad has written a new book, and I am obsessed with her writing. Never given a book by her 5 stars, but this hopefully will be the one. Do I know anything of what it's about? Not a clue. No idea. We'll check in when I'm a little bit further in. All right, first, not really check in, but essentially this is going to be heavily commentary on the beauty industry. It's got her complete wonderful vibe of weirdness. But what I'm loving right now is the girl's gone home, or not home, gone to California to deal with her mother's estate. Her mother has just passed. And she goes to a bar. She's from Montreal, so she has a Canadian ID. And the waiter is looking at her ID, trying to see if she can sell her alcohol, and he can't find the date of birth on it. And I'm having flashbacks to being in grad school. And like I think the few times we went out to drink, I give the person my ID, and like they're like, "Is this real? What the hell is this ID?" Like they don't recognize a Canadian ID. One person had to go get the manager to confirm, yes, this is an ID. Yes, you can sell her alcohol. I'm going to go back to the book. That has nothing to do with the book or the story. All right, so just finished part 1, and I am really enjoying it. Couple little complaints. So with Mona Awad, I always adore her writing so very much, which is very weird because normally I don't like a dissociated fairy tale, slightly not realistic, weird kind of vibe to it. I like sticking to reality. With her writing, it just works. It's addictive, and I don't know how she does it, because it's not something I usually enjoy. It's not quite as addictive as it was in All's Well, though. All's Well is still my favorite in terms of just the writing itself and the characters. Here you have this character, Maribel, or simply Belle, as her mother calls her, and she's obsessed with beauty and skincare. There's some internalized racism, and projection of Western beauty standards going on. And it also goes into how her mother was like insanely beautiful, and she's always comparing herself to her mother and wants that kind of beauty. We're going into like some Snow White vibes as well as other fairy tales, and there's like some mirrors with like cracks straight down through them that I'm very excited. Anytime there's any kind of horror or thriller that involves mirrors, oh, I'm all for it. She just found this culty like spa that's called the, what's it called? I lost my bookmark. I lost my bookmark. Cat lost the bookmark. I'll find it after. It's like de Maison de Medusa or something like that. Apologies, I do not speak French. I butchered that, I'm sure. But I had been stuck on Medusa, and I'm like, ooh, Medusa, that's going to be interesting. But it's not Medusa. You translate it, and it goes to, like, the House of Jellyfish or Jellyfish House, which matches the jellyfish here on the cover, and this strange ad for a spa that she's going to. Sorry about that. Camera died. Note to self, when filming with this camera, make sure it's actually charged. So, anywho, found this creepy cult-like spa, and I'm all for, like, cult stories, so I'm very interested there. I have no idea what the jellyfish are going to represent. My immediate thought is, aren't those things, like, basically immortal, or is that the lobster? I don't know. I don't know how long jellyfish lives. I don't feel like Googling it. I'm back from work now. It is very late. I'm going to wash my face and go to bed, but I have read more, and I made a couple little notes, so let's see. Oh, she is constantly losing time, so that's very interesting. So, like, she was at the spa place, and then the next thing you know, she's waking up in her mother's bedroom. and she's getting to places not really remembering there, or she's thinking about like having flashbacks to the past, but in reality she's like spacing out, and people are like, hey, you spaced out, are you coming into this pawn shop right now, or what's going on? You just kind of stopped. So that's very interesting. I like the fact that we are getting like talks about her mother, and her mom was always like, you don't need all this skincare and treatment, you know that, right? And she's just like, well, what about you? You use it. She's like, don't worry about me. I need the extra help. You don't. You're beautiful. And she doesn't believe her because she doesn't look like her mother. So that's all very interesting there. So while her mother seemed to be very caring despite being very estranged, I still don't trust her because she had these red jars that look like apples. And like we're into the Snow White symbolism, so I'm very non-trusting of the mother, but I also don't trust like the gardener, landscaper. I don't trust the business owner. I don't trust the protagonist. I trust no one in this story. Clearly, we're not meant to trust the creepy cult people. Anywho, she returns to the culty spa, and she's like, oh, we're going to give you this free special treatment. And she's like, oh, is it a certain cleanse? Is it this? Is it this? And they're like, sort of, really. How attached are you to your memories, by the way? And her mom had been losing kind of memories, forgetting names and places and faces and who she was near the end of her life before she had her accident. And now that the main character here, Maribel, had gone through the treatment, she wakes up and she's can't remember faces. She can't remember where she works. She has no idea, like all these key moments, people, places, things gone from her mind. Sometimes it comes back around, other times not so much. And I'm really, really enjoying all those elements there. And then we get flashbacks to the past, and she's talking to what is totally not a demon in the mirror that gives her a rose. Do not trust creepy men that come out of mirrors and give you flowers. And demon things, stay away from underage girls. That's all I'm saying. Main complaint right now is plot isn't really advancing too much. It's very... I never do like a meandering storyline, but Monet Awad's writing normally just like draws me in and I'm just trapped in it. I'm less engaged. It is more on the slow side than I usually am with her stories, but that's okay. There are far, far, far too many references to Tom Cruise. Not a fan of that. And all I'm thinking the entire time is how he was in that terrible remake of The Mummy, because the main character is half Egyptian, and we got a couple of Egyptian symbolisms. And I'm just thinking, this demon thing she keeps saying looks like Tom Cruise. I'm picturing the terrible Mummy movie. It's bumming me out. Buddy is just like, oh, my name is Seth. And I'm like, that was the name of the character from the terrible Mummy movie. So not enjoying that. And then you're heading into part 3, where like we're really heavy into fantasy elements right now as we go in more in part 3, and the Tom Cruise references never end. Part 3 has been the longest drag of it. Like, it is slow paced and nothing is really happening. I need to stop the references to Tom Cruise. It's driving me up the wall. I think we're about done with it. Maybe. I don't know. I hope so. So those are my thoughts there. Though I did like the element of previously she'd been very hesitant on like selling her mother's things. Like there were emotional attachments to it. She didn't like how the pawn shop dealer was handling her mother's stuff. But then after the treatment, after she's lost some memories, she's like ready to sell or get rid of everything. Like there's no longer emotional attachment. So that's a very good element there. I just need a little bit more stronger plot-based stuff. But that's all. All right. I will check in when I finish the next part. All right, ignore the fact that my allergies are acting up, but I just finished part 4 and 5. I'm going into part 6 now. And I think my main issue right now is going to be my issue with a couple of Monet Awad's books. It's just I'm a very plot-focused reader, and if I'm not a plot-focused reader, then I want extremely good like depth to character. And a lot of the times the environment and the setting and just the weirdness of the situation is the focus for these books. And while I loved All's Well for the majority of it, it had a focus of the play that she wanted to put on. This one here, the plot is happening to her. she's reacting to it, and she's barely even reacting to it. She's just going about everything that's happening and being like, oh, yes, of course, let me go along with this thing that just happened. And I'm not liking that. It's not a story I'm invested in. I'm continuing to read because I like the writing. And only because it's Mona Awad. Any other author, I'm convinced I would have gave this up by now. The focus just isn't there for me. So we also had another plot point that happened with another person in the cult that's just pointless. This would have been such a good, like, short story, but I think it was dragged out to be novel length is my main issue right here. She's going through the treatments, and she's still losing memories and everything, but now words are getting mixed up. So I wrote some of them down. So, insanity instead of vanity, ridiculous instead of ritual, like a skincare ritual. It's ridiculous. Deranged instead of arranged, sin instead of skin, whiteness instead of brightness. So just little words to kind of impact how the beauty industry makes some people feel. There's a lot of loneliness instead of something else. I can't remember. Loneliness was replaced by a couple. So I like that element of it. Again, the writing is gorgeous. And oh my god, the focus, if the focus was on the mother-daughter relationship, because it's there, it is 100% there, it's just not fleshed out to the main point of the story. So the love that they have for each other, but also like the mutual jealousy. So mom loves her daughter and says, you're beautiful. It's like, but then mom is doing all these skincare routines for herself. Daughter is watching, and it's just like, you taught me all this. I have absorbed all your, not really insecurities, but your rituals for skincare and how important it is. Just by watching you. You never told me that this is what you need to do to be beautiful, but I've seen you do it for so long, and now that's her obsession. Despite the entire childhood, mom being like, you are beautiful, you don't need to do this, you're already naturally beautiful, I need to do this so I can stay looking young and beautiful. And then daughter, who is, like I said, half Egyptian, is looking at mom's like, I don't look like you, I don't look like these girls in the movie, I don't look like these love interests for Tom Cruise, and that's upsetting to her. And she just wants to be accepted and beautiful as everyone else looks like for their beauty standards. And daughter loves mother, but thing happens, and despite me talking about spoilers in this, I'm not saying what. Mother is rightfully pissed. And I'm on mom's side for this one. Yes, abandon your daughter and run off to Hollywood and then California. Leave daughter with grandma. Grandma ends up switching her religions, which probably not the greatest thing to do. But grandma also thinks daughter has probably been assaulted, and her advice to that is bury it down and forget about it. Daughter can't remember why mom is mad at her. Again, rightfully so. And so she doesn't understand this abandonment and distance between them. And grandma's not being the greatest parent by saying, hey, forget everything that happened to you, when daughter already can't remember it. But then when they meet each other again, it's just like there's still this distance, but we still love each other. But mother is now looking at daughter as if you have the beauty that I once had, and now that I've gotten older, I've lost it. I really, 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 really wish there was a heavier focus on the love and relationship between these two women, as well as the jealousy that they still held. It's there, it's just not really the focus to the extent I want it to be. I need a strong narrative plot line, and that's never something that is in these books, but I love the writing so much, and I don't want to stop reading her stories. One of these days, Mona Awad is going to write a book that will be my all-time favorite in the world, and I will read every book between now and then that she writes until that book comes out. It's not going to be this one, but I can see other people liking it, especially if they don't need as strong a narrative plot line and just be like, go with the flow, get lost in this world and this situation with her. 100% I can see that. This is not a for me book, but other people will love it. All right, I'm finished. I have an air fryer now, and I'm using to reheat chicken, but the lighting is terrible here, so hang on. Yeah, lamp's been moved to the bedroom, better lighting for reading. Anywho, so finished the book, thank God. It dragged near the end for sure, but at least we finished semi-strong, which is good. Overall rating at the moment is like 3.5, so enjoyable, not fantastic, didn't get blown away. Like, love some things, didn't like some things, balances out to average. At one point, I'm like, oh my god, is she going to grow a backbone? And then I'm like, nope, jellyfish don't have spines. We're not getting anything from this character. I really don't like how, I can't even say she just went with the flow. The flow happened to her, and she's just like, yeah, all right. And then just goes on off. Like, decisions on her part were barely made. She was not an active participant in this narrative or this story. The story happened to her, and she just accepted it. And then eventually, I'm not going to go into any detailed spoilers, but eventually she learned what the word no was. And by then it's almost too late, and I'm not going to tell you what happens. So, it gets weird, enjoyably so. I was never as confused as I was in other books, but was definitely still dissociating. What I would have loved for this to have done was, if we wanted to stick with like the beauty industry kind of stuff going on, I would have liked for her to make active choices that led to the physical results that manifested later. So, give me something important to your mother, something symbolic that was very emotional to you. If you have to sacrifice this, and then all of a sudden you get enhanced whatever for beauty. Oh, you want better hair? Break into someone's house and cut their hair, and then the next skin thing I give you will be better there. Oh, you want eternal youth? Kill this person, and then you will be beautiful forever. I wanted active choices. I wanted things like that, not, oh, we'll give you a free spa treatment. So, like, literally. I'm like, what? And then she's just obsessed with what she looks like, and she just can't look away from mirrors, and then she's seeing people in mirrors, and they're talking to her, and saying how beautiful she is, and she can't talk to regular people because she's obsessed with mirrors. Like, no active choices were made by this character. I like it when a character makes a choice and we see the consequence of that choice. They choose the direction the story goes. That did not happen for this. So that's a personal preference. It's not what this book was going for. I just really love the writing and the characters, okay? The characters are good. I just wish they were active participants in the story. But the depth to them in terms of insecurities, relationships with other characters, especially by the end, the protective nature of the mother that is trying to protect her daughter, both from herself, from the mother herself, and being, like, fearful that no one ever stepped in to protect her as a child, so now she's trying to protect her own child, but feels like she's failing, and then the distance between the two, and a kind of reconciliation, even though the mother has passed, and I'm just like, okay, that's good. So, still my issue with Mona Awad is just the plot itself. The stories I love are not the stories she wants to tell. Kat, don't shake the camera, please. And that's okay, because I'm obsessed with her writing, and maybe one of these days we'll agree on the plot that she wants to tell. So when she writes that, I will read it, because I'm reading everything until I find my favorite book. She's going to write my favorite book one of these days. I love her writing so very much. I can't tell you. And it's completely not my vibe. This dissociated fever dream writing. That is the highlight of these stories. So that's all I got. Thank you if you stuck around. Talk to you later. Bye. Hey, Maven. What is it? What? What is it? What's wrong? You see something outside that scared you? What is it? No?